Here's the thought that I'm thinking about for those that feel paralysis by analysis, complacent. I mean, these are things that really resonate. Like, I think you're speaking to me a little bit. And here's what I say is, you'll never have confidence. Courage always precedes confidence. In other words, you will never get to confidence. You will never walk in confidence until you first take a courageous step. Wow. How will you ever know if you never go? So it's like, man, I'm gonna trust that God is with me, that he'll never leave me nor forsake me. And that could be the very thing that gives you that faith to just take step number one. And just like Abram in the Bible, I mean, he would take one step and God would give him the next. Welcome back to the Love Leadership Podcast. And today we are diving into the topic of the right path. Come on. So often in life, we come up to these different decisions, and we know that this episode is airing in the month of December. Many of you are contemplating how this last year has went. Maybe you're considering a career change or a move to a different city or starting that ministry. Well, today we're talking about what it looks like to choose the right path. And so today I'm joined by Todd Doxzon, and we're grateful to be with you guys today. How you feeling today, man?
I'm living the dream. Again, the pastor's breakfast went phenomenal. I feel like it was powerful. It was practical. I think we discussed some things that we've seen in the ministry that have been challenges. And if you're leading the ministry at all and you're listening to this, you understand that there's challenges. But that's the beauty. The beauty is the ability to look at those challenges as opportunities. And how can we solve, and how can we put a system in place, and how can we care better? How can we grow? And to me, that's exciting, because then there's I don't know about you, but I like challenges. So it's like, let's go, man. Like, let's address it. Let's get the right people in the room. And so I think those have been super healthy for us.
It's so good. And I think you're even just touching on a principle that actually fits into today's theme. But it's this idea of having a growth mindset.
Right.
You know, and really the opposite of that would be a fixed mindset. You know, this is just the way that it is. I can never grow beyond this. Wow. But it really does require a growth mindset to embrace change, to be able to embrace uncomfortable. And we say this a lot, and I think we got this from Pastor Craig Rochelle. He says you can have comfort or growth, but you can't have both.
Can't have both, yeah.
And so today, as we're even thinking about the right path, we know that there are some people that God is stirring in their heart to move in a direction, but as they look at that direction, the path looks narrow, it looks difficult. Maybe like Joshua chapter 3, there's giants in that promised land. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we can see as we consider that opportunity. But we're in the holiday season, and recently this sort of theme came to you when you were in the mountains, man. So maybe you can set up this theme with your experience and storytell that and really bring our listeners into what we're talking about today.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, Mike. For the last 17, 18 years, every Thanksgiving week, we have gone up to the mountains in Burnsville, North Carolina, have phenomenal family friends. They've been so gracious over the years, and they've become so close. And so just picture you're driving. First of all, we'd throw the kids in the car after a Sunday. We'd grab some Costco pizza. We just drive 19 hours, you know. And even just that, I think, was a healthy rhythm for our family of, you know, ministry is full, it's chaotic, it's beautiful. But to be able to shut the phone off, have good driving time. And so we've done that for several years. Well, this year it was just Denise and I. I mean, we're empty nesters, super weird, honestly. But it's just Denise and I were going up the mountain, and every day on the mountain, we would walk all the way to the top of the mountain. They have a workout place. They have like an airstrip on the top of this mountain. It's just absolutely beautiful, God's country.
So beautiful. And
it's just our soul gets revived. So we're walking up this mountain, and you get to a certain part of the mountain, and there's literally a fork in the road. So if you're listening and you got a fork in the road in your life right now, this is for you.
Yeah.
And to the left, you're still going to get up the mountain. It's still going to be a little windy, but you know it's going to take a little bit longer. It's going to be a little bit easier, but you're going to eventually get there. So that's to the left, right? And to the right, I mean, you're going to get there quicker, but it is going to be way more difficult. And It's super steep. It's one of those walks where your body almost feels like it's leaning, and your glutes are fired up, your hammies are fired up, and you're just like, you're breathing so hard. But it's exhilarating, it's challenging. you get there quicker. But man, when you get to the top and you can see, I mean, you see forever. It's beautiful what you get to see. There's a sense of accomplishment. It's like, that was tough, but we conquered it. We did it together as a couple.
So good.
You know, we're like holding the hands for half of it, and that's sometimes we're like sorry, babe, I gotta drop the hands, and I'm like we're going straight up, and there's just something. It was crisp. It was sunny out. It was a beautiful experience. But as I got to the top of the mountain, it just hit me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is my life right now. You know, we've been working, you know, in ministry for, you know, a couple decades, and it's been a beautiful, beautiful journey. And if I'm really honest, Mike, I'm at this interesting point in life where I could go the left, I could take a left, and you know what the church we're leading here and online campus and the Elkhorn South campus and a lot of the stuff we're doing is beautiful. It's challenging, it's beautiful. God's doing amazing things, and we're eventually going to get to the top, you know. But then there's another path right now that was presented to us of launching a new campus in North Omaha. And there's a lot of questions I have. There's a lot of unknown. But when you know that you're called to go up that mountain, like there's a sense of challenge. It's going to be uncomfortable, but I know I'm called to it. I know we're called to it, and God's confirmed it several times. Is it going to be easy? No, but is it going to be worth it? Yes. Is there souls at stake? Yes. Is there going to be this beautiful perspective when we get to this place where we're seeing God work through a whole new campus? Absolutely. But that's how I felt, man. And I look back and I'm like, oh my goodness. And it was funny because Denise was like, and we had already done this walk probably 2 or 3 times. So this is the 3rd or 4th time of the week that we're doing it. And we get up to this, and she's like, why don't we go to the right side this time? I'm looking at her like, girl, you are crazy. Like, no. And everything in me was like, no, we're good. I'm still going to get a workout. But she looked at me and she's like, you sure? Let's go right. And it reminded me of Luke 9:57 when Jesus had this follower, and he's like, Lord, I'll follow you wherever you want to go. And I felt like Denise was like, I was like saying that, yeah, wherever you want to go, babe. Yeah. You want to go to the right? Let's go to the right. And I'm like, oh. And it's interesting, Jesus' response, and we can maybe talk about this for a minute. Jesus looked at the guy, he's like, hey man, foxes got dens to live in, birds got nests to kind of to hang out in, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. You sure about that? And I think in essence what he was saying is it's going to be uncomfortable. Really, that's really it. Is it going to be worth it? Yeah. Is it going to be exhilarating? Yeah. Are you going to feel alive? Yeah, because it's kingdom work. Yes. Is it going to be comfortable? No. And it's like commitment and comfortable. You know, it's like, are there some seasons of life that, and the favor of God's everywhere, and you're healthy, and finances are great, and relationships are great, and everything. But there's some times, man, where it's like that road is going to be steep. It's going to be challenging. Are you okay with that? And I think that's what he was saying to that guy, you know? So anyway, that kind of sets us up for this episode as we're maybe trying to help people that are in that same position. They're in a fork in the road, and they're like, hey, man, do I choose comfortable or do I choose called?
Wow. Well, and it is. I mean, and I keep hearing the phrase, are we willing to count the cost?
Count the cost, yeah.
Are we willing to count the cost? And obviously going to the right for you cost you something. Come on. Those glutes, the huffing and puffing.
The next day, Mike, I'm telling you, like I could barely get out of bed because everything in my lower body was just so sore, you know, it's cramping up. But again, it was worth it.
It was worth it.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, as I think about this idea and this theme, and even now, I want you to think about, okay, so the picture was just laid out. They're going up a mountain. They come to this fork in the road. Right is going to be quicker but harder. Left is going to be longer but easier. And here's Pastor Todd with his wife, and she's saying, let's go right. Like, let's go the hard way. And that could just be a picture. That could be a picture for some of our listeners right now. Instead of Denise saying go right, it's Jesus saying, hey, let's go right. Let's go on the narrow path. Let's go up. Let's get a little uncomfortable. Let's lean in a little bit. So I want you to think about, even right now as you're listening, what is that for you? Like, consider what decision is right in front of you. What is God stirring in your heart? And then here's what we want to do. We want to lay out that there's 5 choices that you can make right now as you come up on this crossroads. And we can talk about each of these.
I love it.
You can go right.
It's so good.
You can go left. You can stay put. You can go backwards, or you can just go right around the mountain again. Those are the 5 choices
Mike,
that we face when we come up on a crossroads, and those are the 5 choices that you can make right now in this situation. So let's talk about each of those, I think, just a little bit more.
It's interesting. So we've already kind of touched on left and right.
Yep.
So let's talk maybe for a second about doing nothing. And, maybe we could just title it complacency, right?
Yep.
It's uncomfortable. Then you get to complacency. And I don't know, I've felt that in seasons of my life where I know that there's something next, but I'm like, I don't know. I don't know the full picture yet. I don't know all of it yet. And if I'm perfectly honest with you, Mike, this heart for North Omaha and wanting to do something has been there for quite some time. We were just at a prayer meeting recently, and one of our prayer warriors, Gina, she mentioned the Lecrae song, Beautiful Feet.
Didn't she?
What she didn't know is that was the song over a decade ago that God drilled me with about eventually doing something in North Omaha. That was over a decade ago. And when we're at the prayer meeting and she's talking about that, I was like, oh my goodness. And so to me, I'm just speaking personally, and I don't know if our listeners are in the same place, right? When we're invited to something, I think a lot of times the reason we stay put is I don't know, there's a lot of unknown still.
Yep.
Or I don't have, 101% confirmation.
Yep.
And so it's like, unless I know for sure and I know how it's all going to work out, I'm going to stay put. And I think, again, that's where this weird tension between faith and presumption lies.
Yes.
And so now I'm like going, okay, Lord, yes, I believe you're calling me. And I have to have some faith because I don't know who the campus pastor is going to be. I don't know who's really going to be a part of this. I don't know how this is going to get funded.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep.
There's so many unknowns, but you said go. And I think one of the things that's helped me is going back in my past and going, where were those times where there was a fork in the road and God was calling me to something and I didn't know all of it, but I'm like, we're going to go. And you'd look back and even just, I remember starting at Peter Kiewit Middle School, like, I don't know anything. I don't know. We had no systems. We had no structures. We don't have anything. And you know what? God was faithful. And you look back, what if we had not taken the hard right? Who knows what would happen? And so anyway, that's just something on that, a perspective of being just complacent and not making a decision.
Well, and it's so interesting because I think you're really touching on something that is going to speak to a lot of people, and I can resonate with this. And maybe you're somebody that you're a conservative decision maker. You are, you do want to be responsible even in your decision making, and those are great strengths, but
Absolutely.
they can have backside weaknesses, and you find yourself in this perpetual state of paralysis by analysis.
Wow.
And it's so interesting because when I think about what this topic and what we're talking about, for whatever reason, man, I keep coming back to the story of when Joshua is stepping into leadership over the nation of Israel when Moses moves on. So you got Joshua coming in, and context here, they've been wandering in the wilderness for 40 years when God, gave them a promise of entering the promised land that was supposed to take 11 days. And here they are 40 years, and Joshua is stepping into leadership, and I'm sure he's feeling overwhelmed. And man, I never saw God face to face like Moses, and probably feeling some insecurity and all these different things. And 2 times in chapter 1, God comes to Joshua and says, be strong and very courageous.
Wow.
for I go with you wherever you go.
So good.
And I love that statement, because here's the thought that I'm thinking about for those that feel paralysis by analysis, complacent. I mean, these are things that really resonate. Like, I think you're speaking to me a little bit. And here's what I say is, you'll never have confidence. Courage always precedes confidence. In other words, you will never get to confidence. You will never walk in confidence until you first take a courageous step. Wow. How will you ever know if you never go? So it's like, man, I'm gonna trust that God is with me, that he'll never leave me nor forsake me. And that could be the very thing that gives you that faith to just take step number one. And just like Abram in the Bible, I mean, he would take one step and God would give him the next. And that's the beautiful journey that we go on. And I just want to encourage somebody that really feels like they're stuck in complacency. Now, here's why I think this is important. And I want you to speak into this. Because if we stay in complacency long enough, if we stay in paralysis by analysis long enough, eventually that becomes frustrating. And what I think the temptation then becomes over maybe months or years of staying in that place is now we really start to lower the bar and we actually go back down the mountain.
Back down.
So maybe speak into that a little bit.
Wow, that just hit me. Yeah, we talk about this, the backsliding Christian, and probably you're right. It's complacency over time hardens the heart. You get disconnected, and next thing you know, you're like, you know what? I don't think this is really worth it. Let me go pursue something else. And now instead of kingdom advance and faith challenges and let's see what the Lord might want to do, now I'm kind of reserved back to let me just kind of be all about my own life and play it safe, and let's just go back down the mountain and hang out. And I've joked about this probably far too often, but there's been seasons of my life, if I'm perfectly honest, where I'm like, nothing against Costco, but I'm like, I'm going to go to Costco. I'm going to be the checkout person at Costco, and we're going to work 9 to 5. I'm going to, put a smile on my face, love people, but I'm not going to have any risk at all. There's no one that I'm going to be responsible for. I'm going to go home at 5:30. I'm going to have a TV dinner and watch SportsCenter, and then I'm going to watch 3 shows and I'm going to bed. There's no risk in that. I'm not going to let anyone down because the people at Costco, they got what they wanted.
Wow.
I'm going to look at them in the face and have a genuine smile, make them feel loved. But what I've noticed in my leadership, the more responsibility he's given me, the more risk there is, and therefore I hurt people, I let people down. There's a great temptation for me to go right back down the mountain. Because if I go back down the mountain, I'm not gonna risk hurting people or letting people down. But guess what? I'm not going to be able to see the kingdom advance and souls saved and discipled and generations changed either. I'm going to miss out on that opportunity. I'm going to go right back down the mountain. And I don't know if that resonates with anyone here, but that to me is the great temptation of my life. And that's just brutal honesty. I could go back down. I could stay where I'm at and not risk it. Because let's be honest, Mike, this whole next year of planning another campus in North Omaha, that is risky.
It's going right.
That is going straight up a mountain. What if people don't come? What if it's not funded? What if there's division because of racial problems? What if there's relationships we've been building for years there where there's miscommunication or misunderstanding that goes wrong? That's the reality of what the risk is. I looked at one of my friends that's going to help us with this, and I love you too much as a brother so we gotta stay communicating in a super healthy way, because I love you more than anything. I don't want that to be that's a risk.
Yeah.
That's going up the mountain and breathing heavy and having your glutes on fire, man. Like, that's real, And so anyway, those are just some of my thoughts.
I absolutely love the vulnerability and the honesty. And I think right now that's going to resonate with our listeners. You're feeling all of those emotions as you count the cost for the right path for your situation and whatever that looks like. And I think the final path that we can talk about here is we can just go right around the mountain. And we've seen that. We've walked through that ourselves. And I think that really does kind of coincide with the complacency space. I think it's a similar headspace, but maybe the slight variance would be maybe you're not taking the path, and it's really out of a spirit of maybe rebellion is what causes us to continue on that perpetual path around the mountain. It's not necessarily like complacency. Complacency is more paralysis by analysis. I'm not sure if I want to get uncomfortable. I'm not sure if I don't see the whole picture. So it's maybe a little bit more fear-based, whereas going around the mountain could look more like I'm a rebel. I'm going to do it my way. Sorry, God, I got this. And we deal with that in our own lives, and we've led a lot of people that we've seen go around the mountain.
Yeah, again, I'll just be honest. For me, there's big changes in 2024 for me personally, and I think God's tried to get my attention in some areas, and whether it's rebellion, and let's just call it what it is. It's disobedience. God's going like, I want to bless you in this certain area, but you're just disobedient. You haven't done what I've asked you to do. So you just you go around the mountain again, and he's so gracious, isn't he? He's like, buddy, I want you to continue to grow in your walk and your maturity. I want to bless you more. What's the scripture? If you're not faithful in the little, how can I give you more?
Yeah.
And I've been given a challenge in this area. Okay. So we go around and around, and we come back, and he presents another challenge, and I'm disobedient there. I'm rebellious there. He's just and what happens is it's like some of our life is passing by. Yeah. And that's the tragedy of it. We don't get those years back. And it doesn't matter what area it is. And it's not because he's a big ogre going, you idiot, you didn't get it right. I look at it as a dad. The dad's going, dude, I wanted to bless you with that. All I was asking you to do to take out the trash, man. All I was asking you to do is clean your room. All I was asking you to do is set your alarm and get up. I'm trying to train you as a man and allow you to mature, but you're missing this. And that's where I feel like a lot of us, we just keep on going around the mountain. We have these vast dreams and visions and goals, and we just talked about it today, but we have no system in place that's going to help us get to that goal. We have no discipline, no obedience in a certain area, and therefore we're never going to grow in that area.
It's so good, man. It's like what's resonating in my mind is this statement that I feel like God challenged me with handfuls of months ago as I was processing through a similar topic. But having potential and realizing potential are two different things.
My goodness.
And really it boils down to what we're talking about right here, right now. Are we willing to count the cost? Are we willing to get uncomfortable? Are we willing to walk by faith? Are we willing to make the obedient step? Are we willing to trust God?
So good, Mike. Let me just speak into one specific, this is just one specific example, okay? You're listening to this and you've always wanted your marriage to thrive. And we know the very first thing of that is healthy individuals, spiritually, and then connect. So it's funny, we talk about the 5 S's at this church all the time. It's surrendered and then surrounded. Let's just take those two. I'm surrendered to Christ. Okay. Let's go self-fed. I'm spirit-led, I'm self-fed. I'm in the Word. And we have both parties. But then there's something that we haven't taken the next step to get involved in some type of group, or even if it's a 2-on-2 accountability where I'm meeting with someone on a regular basis. I'm in a small group and I'm meeting with them outside. And I'm like, in 2024, I'm going to make a goal. There's one couple, and I want you to keep us accountable as a couple. And something that we do is so simple. We'll take a couple out and we'll ask a very, very simple but biblical question. I'll look at Mike. Hey, Mike, what's one way you're loving what's one way that you appreciate Jerica respecting you lately? And what's one way you can grow in loving her? Straight, simple love and respect. And now it's accountability. And then I'm vulnerable to you.
Yep.
And I'm saying, you're asking me the question, hey, Todd, what's one way you can grow in loving Denise in this season? What's one way that you really appreciate Denise respecting you? and we meet regularly throughout the year, what are we doing? We're facilitating growth, man. We're getting uncomfortable. We're addressing some issues that probably are a little dicey and to say just you two, but now you got a trusted couple that have your back unconditionally. That's a simple system that you can put in place in your marriage. You've wanted that for years, but you've never taken, so you're going around the mountain. It's been 5 years and your marriage is in the same place. Or tragically, maybe it's gone back down the mountain and you've fallen into some places that you never dreamed of. Don't stay down there. Like, change your system.
It's so good. I want to ask you a question because my curiosity is being provoked right now. What in humanity, what prohibits us from coming under mentorship, coaching, consulting, pastoring? Yeah. Like, what prohibits us from positioning ourselves in those types of relationships? Because I know you and I, what we're talking about right now is we can look at every area of our life and say, the areas that are being maximized, it's because there's a coach.
There's a coach.
I keep thinking of Coach Kyle. The guy he won't let me go left. No rep. Like, and because of that, I'm growing physically right now more than I have in a while because there's a coach, there's a mentor, and you use the area of marriage. But I think what prohibits us from coming?
Two things right away: pride and shame.
Man,
every time. Pride, because I'm going to do life my way, and I would just say, you can continue that as long as you're okay with the results. Shame is the other way. Is I feel so bad about the decisions I've made and the position I'm in. I'm so filled with shame, I don't want to release that information to someone because now you're going to look at me different. Those are the two main things. And that's the beauty, though, when you have people around you that are not judgmental, they have your back and they love you unconditionally. When you're able to divulge that information and they love you unconditionally and they're willing to keep you accountable, think about it. All the areas that you have accountability in your life and you have healthy safeguards, that's where we're thriving. The ones that we don't, we're humans, man. We're humans. We all mess up, man. I need a coach, but it's invited accountability.
It's so good, man. Well, here's the picture I'm getting in my mind that I would love for you to exhort our people. You're gonna exhort. I'm gonna exhort. We're gonna end this episode. But here's the picture.
So
here's the picture. I want you to go back to that same mountain. If you're listening right now, I want you to envision that you're walking up that mountain. And for you, PT, you're at the fork in the road.
Okay.
You're standing there and you are seeing these people walking towards you. They're coming to the fork in the road. Like, this is, I think, the picture of where people are at as they're listening to this episode. They might be in their car right now. They might be in their living room. They might be at their office. I don't know where they're at, but right now you're coming up to a fork in the road. Like, how do you want to encourage those folks?
I see a sign. I have a sign up that says, "Don't miss out."
Wow.
Yes, it's going to be tougher, but you do not want to miss this ride. You do not miss this. That's what the sign says. And it's so cool that that's what your sign says, because the word that I kept thinking was legacy. Yeah.
The picture I see is a dad holding his wife's hand, and the children are coming up the mountain. And it's been a tough year. But there's hope in the sign that says, "Don't miss out."
Don't miss out.
And the verse of scripture that keeps coming to my mind is, if you cling to your life, you'll lose it. But if you give up your life for me, you will find it. And I feel like that's the right path.
It's the right path.
There's something new and fresh that it's like generational.
Yep.
And it's worth it. It's worth it, like you said. Yep. So
not easy, but worth it. Yep.
So if you're there today, and man, geez, I didn't know that I would.
The Spirit of God, man. Yeah.
I didn't know I'd be moved so deeply by this, but I really believe that this is a pivotal episode for somebody on the other end of this. And this could be a life-changing moment for you. And I hope you know this, that I really believe this. I believe this with my whole heart, that this is God's heart for you. This isn't like this. God is using Todd and Mike O'Connell, like Todd Doxzon, Mike O'Connell right now, but this is God flowing and speaking to you. That, man, he wants you to take the right path because that's where he's at. He's there. Yep. He's there. He goes before you. He's your rear guard. He'll never leave you nor forsake you. So take the bold step, take the courageous step, and you're going to see him do immeasurably more than you could think, ask, or imagine. We believe that.
I love it.
We believe it.
So good.
So thanks for tuning in, and we do. We pray that in this holiday season, we recognize it, and in the holiday months, it can be a really challenging time for people that are walking through difficult circumstances. And we celebrate with those of you that are celebrating in this season. We weep with those of you that are weeping, and we're just believing that this episode is gonna speak to people. So if you know somebody that needs to hear this word, share it with them. Yeah. And we're excited. We can't wait to be back with you in 2024 as we continue to lead different. Keep leaning in. Let's go.
Love it.
What's up, Love Leadership fam? Man, we know that if you're tuning in, you love to lead, and we hope that this episode brought you value. We're gonna be dropping a new episode the third Thursday of every month, so subscribe, like. Also, there's more Love Leadership content for you on our channel. Go check it out right now. We can't wait to see you next month.